Hey everybody, and welcome back to another layout update video. I've been very busy over the last few weeks getting a ton of projects done. As you can see, there's some noticeable changes there on the fascia. We'll certainly dig into those in a bit. As you can see, I've also got some items to the right. This is what I picked up at the Amherst Railway Society train show. Of course, we'll dig into those a little bit later. Wanted to go ahead and give you a layout update, show you what I've been working on, so let's get right to it. So continuing from the last update video, I had mentioned that I was working on these mountains, or these hills, whatever you want to call them. So I've gone ahead and I've glued those down, except for the little hill between these other ones. You can see the bamboo skewers piercing that. That's just holding it in place for me. I'm trying to decide what I want to do with that. I do like it, and I think it'll look great with some trees on it and some rock walls or rock faces around the edge. I'm thinking I might have a road kind of go in between that hill in the far corner and that smaller one, and then the road will sort of wind behind a tree line before disappearing. Not 100% sure on that idea, but I'm going to leave that there, let it sit there until I can come up with a better idea, or if I decide to remove it, I'll go ahead and do that. And then if we pan over, we can see here that I've got the other hill glued in place. So that one's definitely permanent. I liked the setup that I had for that. I need to go ahead and sort of shave off a little bit of that overhang you can see towards the left. Then I'm going to go ahead and put some Sculptamold, some plaster of Paris or something similar to create rock faces. But that'll be a project for the future. Prior to gluing down the different layers of the hills, I wanted to address something that was bugging me for a while, and that was the color of the rock wall or the rock face at the bottom of the backdrop. You can't quite see it now, or maybe you can see a little bit of it, but the color was a reddish brown color. And that didn't really fit with what I was going for. I'm looking for like a darker gray with lighter gray highlights kind of deal. So I needed to come up with a solution. What I did is I joined a piece of foam that you can see there from the bottom corner of that hill, and I joined it to the other hill on the other side. And you can see there's a little bit of a cut down the middle, and that's where the module joint is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this with plaster of Paris and carve in the rock faces the way I want it, and then I can paint it accordingly. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of the rock wall on the backdrop still showing, but I'm hoping that using trees, bushes, that sort of thing will mask it, and I won't have to worry about it. But I think this is a good solution. I also like that it's a continuous rock face, and it joins along, so it's like one whole mountain range. There's no split. I mean, technically there's a split because the module joint, but it's all one continuous thing, and I think having some trees along there with the rock faces down below is going to look really, really good. So continuing right along, we can see that I've been working on the riverbed some more. I went ahead and used plaster of Paris to line the riverbed. Then as it dried, I carved away at it with an X-Acto knife and a putty knife and a few other tools. And then once it finally cured, I went back and used the X-Acto knife to carve in those smaller, finer details to create the overall riverbed look. Not sure I'm 100% satisfied with it, but I think it looks pretty good. Obviously, it'll be a little bit easier to tell if I like the final results once I've got a coat of paint on there and I've got some details added in. But as you can see, I also added in another bridge. Again, this is made from foam, just like the Stone Arch Bridge, but this is going to be a concrete viaduct or a concrete bridge, and this is going to be for the roadway. So pretty much where those Green Mountain locomotives are in the corner, you can see the roadway, and that's going to curve along the riverbed, cross the tracks, and then approach this bridge where the road can either cross and go into Bellows Falls, or it can continue on into Walpole, New Hampshire to the right. So the road is actually going to follow along the fascia or along these spur tracks here where the tank cars are. I'm trying to decide if I want to have the road sort of just end right here and then just disappear, or if I want it to continue this way and move to the right. If we take a look, continue along, this is the space I have to work with, but I feel like having the road right next to the tracks isn't going to look too good. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to have the road disappear over the fascia, and then it's going to come back, sort of reappear here, and then cross the tracks over there. It's just an idea, but it's something I'm working with. And actually, just going back to this area here for a second, so the road would come from the left. It would cross the tracks, kind of go alongside that spur track with the coaches on it, behind that small hill, and then curve and go towards the tree line before disappearing. I think it looked pretty good. I think it would allow the scenes to connect in a really good way. But again, with this small hill, I'm not really sure I'm going to do that. But something else to think about. Not too much action happening in the Bellows Falls area of the layout, but I figured I should mention, in case you didn't notice, I did paint the base foam layer a brown color. I can't remember the specific brown, but it's just a interior house paint. Figured it'd be a good foundational brown for the landscaping that I'm going to put down eventually at some point in the future. There's not much work that's happened here. I'll talk about these labels and the panels on the fascia in a little bit, but you can just kind of see what the brown looks like. It definitely gives it a different look, and I'm happy that the foam color, the blue foam color, has disappeared. The only thing that I've done over here for the main line portion and the truss bridge in Bellows Falls West is just get that concrete area beneath the bridge sort of filed down or sanded down. It was a little rough. Applied another layer just to make it look a little bit better. That was the only change that I made there. So I finally completed a project that I had been thinking about for many months but didn't do. Finally got the motivation, I guess, to do it. Guess the motivation being I didn't want my trains to fall off the edge of the layout. So I went ahead and used a piece of scrap hardboard, there's the name for it, scrap hardboard, cut a piece, and I screwed it to the edge of the lift gate. And this just clears that backdrop. It's a little closer than I would like, but it definitely works. And then, of course, I'm going to go ahead and put another section over there where the end of that spur track is so that cars won't roll off the edge. Obviously very important. I don't want my cars crashing to the ground. So let's talk about the fascia. I went ahead and I put a poll up, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, with some different color choices. I was originally deciding between green and black for the fascia color, and green seemed like the obvious choice. Not only does it look good, but obviously modeling the Green Mountain Railroad, I feel like it has to be green. So I chose a few different colored greens, put it on a poll, and got your feedback. And I agree, the green agate was the color to choose, so that's what I've got painted on here. So I'm sure you're curious what these panels are on the fascia. I will go ahead and include pictures of these just so you have a bit better idea. You can see them up close. It's kind of hard to read the writing from this distance. But these are track diagrams or schematics of the different areas of the layout. And these were based off the VRS timetables that someone provided me on Facebook. I can't remember the name of the gentleman who provided it, but thank you to him. It was tremendously helpful. Originally, I had just used R.W. Nimke's book and a few track plans from that to kind of get the idea of how I wanted to label the tracks. But once I got the VRS timetable, it was a no-brainer. I was able to include signals, locations of industries, all that sort of stuff, so it was extremely helpful. And then to go along with the track schematic or the diagram, I have labels of the different areas of the layout. This is not so much for me, but others who want to come and operate the layout. I guess the track schematic is helpful in that regard too, but having this combined with the labels, the town labels, I think will add a little bit something special to the operations and hopefully allow for a good experience. So North Walpole, New Hampshire also has a schematic here of the yard. Then I've got the town label. Then if we spin on over here, we'll see that Chester also has the same setup, town name, and a track schematic. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the items that I got from the Amherst Railway Society train show this year. So this is the first item, and this is a gallon bulk unit of ballast from Scenic Express. I figured, you know what, $24.99 for a gallon of ballast is a great deal. It's not the brand I was going to go with originally, but I really like the color. It's a light gray with cinders mixed in, and I think it's going to look pretty good once I put it down on the layout. So this is something I've been waiting for all year. Saw this last year. This is the Rutland Railroad Depot, the Chester, Vermont station. This is by Mount Blue Model Company. They had an example of this kit last year, and they were working on creating it. And of course, when I got there this year and I saw that they still had a couple kits left, I picked one up. It's a no-brainer. It's a beautiful kit, and I can't wait to assemble it. So in line with the Mount Blue Model Company kit, I also picked up some materials for scratch building. This is laser cut brick sheeting. I don't know if you can see the brick pattern on there. And then this is some details here, just some trim pieces, smaller pieces here. I'm going to be scratch building a lot of the buildings on the layout, so I figured some laser cut brick pattern would be most appropriate for that. And then in addition to the brick sheeting, I picked up these shingles, slate shingles from Motrac Models. The gentleman there was very helpful. I told him what I was planning on working on, and we decided on these shingles. Got a couple of packs. Not sure if it's going to be enough, but it's definitely going to be a start. And up next is some more weathering powders. I picked up some powders from this brand here, or this vendor, a couple of years ago, Weather Systems. They have some great powders. They work really well. Got dark rail brown, got some lime mortar, some antique iron red, and old Tuscan. I'm always in the need for powders. Can't recommend this brand enough, so definitely check it out. Another item I picked up here is these Wallace Locomotive Works modern bow handle switch stands. Picked up 16 of these. It's 4 in a pack. It's definitely cool. I've seen a lot of things online about these. Definitely can't wait to get them painted and installed. And then in addition to those, they actually provided me with a free item. I didn't even realize was in the package till I got home. Just a set of 3D printed fire hydrants. So thank you to Wallace Locomotive Works for those. Another miscellaneous item here is a Bright Boy track cleaner. I know there's mixed reviews about these products here, that they can do some harm to the tracks, but I have some rough areas I need to scrub off just with various adhesives and things like that the locomotives have been struggling going over. So I figured this would work. Also, not to mention the truss bridge. That's a pain in the butt to clean. I needed something that was longer that I could reach, and I tried using a longer Q-tip with a little bit of alcohol, but I figured this 6-inch Bright Boy would hopefully do the trick for that. Alright, so the last thing here is the rolling stock that I picked up. Picked up 6 pieces. The first one is this bulkhead flat car. It's IHB. It's a Canadian car. I really like the color of this. Actually, when I got home, I realized that one of the bulkheads had become detached, so I have already opened this and I glued that bulkhead back in place. But the other freight cars I have not opened. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at those. But let's get this out of the package and take a look at it real quick. Alright, so I've got this removed from the package. It's your standard bulkhead flat car. This end here was the one that had come undone, and I glued it on with some CA glue. Not the best repair job, but this is going to be used for maintenance of way, I think, on the layout. And it's going to be heavily weathered. I don't think we'll notice the glue at all. So I'm pretty happy with this purchase. Up next are these covered hoppers. Union Pacific. We've got 2 of them. They're pretty much identical, just slightly different on the numbers here. But this is going to be used for M&M construction. They're going to receive sand or cement via these covered hoppers. So let's open these up and take a look. These are really nice covered hoppers. Never had 2-bay covered hoppers before, at least I don't think so. Really love the detail on these. They look great together as a pair. So again, these are going to be for M&M construction, hauling sand, cement, that sort of thing. Definitely looking forward to using them on the layout. Up next, we've got this piece of rolling stock here. This is a Walther's Mainline Railgon, 53-foot gondola. I'm going to go ahead and use this for maintenance of way on the layout. I saw this at the train show. Figured, you know what, it looks pretty cool. Never had one, so I'm going to go ahead and buy it. So let's take a look at it. So I've got that 53 gun out of the package. It's definitely a great looking car. Not too much detail to this. It's pretty basic, but I do like it. I think it's going to work pretty well for the maintenance of way train. So the last 2 pieces of rolling stock that I have are pretty much identical. And that's these Boston and Maine or Guilford covered hoppers. These are for sand. I'm going to go ahead and use these both for M&M construction as well as delivering sand to the engine house. So the numbers are pretty much the same. This is 27, you can't quite see that, 2758. The other one is 2757. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. So with these out of the box, we can take a closer look here. So I've got B&M 2758 on the left and 2757 on the right. You know, it's kind of funny because given my YouTube name, Guilford Railman, This is the only, or these are the only two pieces of Guilford Rail rolling stock that I own, or anything that's associated with my layout in the Guilford name. These are the only two things that I now have. Didn't have anything until this point. And actually, the Guilford Railman name came from a YouTube channel I used to have when I was much, much younger, and I actually made a post recently. I had discovered that channel. I thought it was no longer around, but I had plans to build a layout, a small N-scale shelf layout many years ago, and it never got built. So if you haven't checked out those videos, I definitely recommend. It's kind of funny seeing my design process and everything back then versus now. I might build that layout in the future, but who knows? Definitely check it out. So we've got all the new rolling stock out. Bulkhead flat car, 2 UP covered hoppers, the railgun gondola, and the 2 Guilford Rail covered hoppers. I've actually needed the covered hoppers, the 2-bay ones, since last year. I had planned on getting these at the train show last year, but my budget did not allow. So I've gone the whole year without them, but it's okay because pretty much this year has been more or less about the construction of the layout and not so much operating it. I've only operated it a few times as I've gone along on the build. So pretty much moving forward, you're going to see a lot more operations, and I'll discuss that with you in a later video. So to finish off my day at the train show, or my weekend rather, I made a stop to Hobby Lobby. I actually have one about 20 minutes from my house, and I've never been to a Hobby Lobby before, but I wanted to go ahead and stop by. I'd heard they had some pretty good things, and it turned out that they did. I managed to pick up some styrene sheets. This is just one sheet here. It's pretty thick, 0.08 inches. I'm going to use this as the base for the engine house. So I've got that there. This I've actually already opened up. This is a multi-pack, different thicknesses of styrene sheets. I'm going to be using this for various scratch building projects as well. And I've got various thicknesses and lengths of basswood. Here, this is going to be for the framing of certain buildings that I'm going to be working on. You can see there's a couple other packs down here, and then down below here is some balsa wood that I'm going to use for scratch building as well. So there's lots of plans in the future for that. But I was definitely surprised to find these things at Hobby Lobby because we don't have very many hobby craft stores around my area. The styrene sheeting I've always ordered online, paying $6, $7 for a pack of styrene, just didn't really make sense. So I'm really glad that I stopped by Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to be going there a lot more in the future. So now that I've completed painting the fascia and putting a base coat of paint on the foam, I can go ahead and reattach the NC power cab control panels to the layout and get this rewired. I'm hoping to have some operations going real soon. Definitely want to try out these schematics and start to work with car cards and get a good operation plan in place. I'm going to try and do an operations video in the very near future. I need to kind of tweak a few more things with my plans. I'm going to try out some ops with a friend and see if we can come up with any problems, or any problems that need to be solved, I should say. That's going to be in a future video. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. There's a lot of stuff that I've done over the last few weeks, so I was able to put out a video a little bit sooner than I normally do. I'm not sure when the next video is going to take place. Things are going to slow down a little bit while I figure out the operations and while I start to work on some smaller projects. But as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you.